Welcome to the Total Soccer Show Weekend Review. If you're a Liverpool fan, Sunday wasn't too pretty as the Reds got steamrolled by Manchester City. Slot's defence was rough and Doku was bliss. But how did Liverpool go from beating Real Madrid to this? Elsewhere, it was a bad weekend for streaks as Arsenal's clean sheets and Bayern's wins both ended their peaks. The Gunners finally conceded, but it wasn't really a blunder. After all, what were we expecting when they went to the mighty land of Sunder? Luis Diaz scored a stunner and we all thought they would win, but Bayern's hot streak is over, thanks to Union Berlin. And we wanted goals at Tottenham and we were treated to 4 as the hosts faced Man United in a pretty chaotic draw. My name's Ryan Bailey. Joining me today, it's the Taylor Rockwell. Hello, the Taylor Rockwell. How are you?
I am well, the Ryan Bailey, although I am sick, as you might be able to tell with my voice, but I'm here, excited to talk about all of the soccer from this weekend, but a little bit sad at the same time. Is anyone else a little sad that Bayern Munich won't have a 34-win season? I was really hoping it would go longer. Alas, here we are.
Feel like it's our fault, to be honest, because we were proposing it so much.
Kinda.
Yeah.
And discussing it and kind of concluding that it was a distinct possibility. And then Union Berlin said, no.
I think it should count as a win because of how good the Luis Diaz goal was. That's what I've decided. Okay. He's had himself quite a week. That goal is one of genuinely the greatest goals I've ever seen in my entire life. It should go down as a three-pointer.
Okay, here's my question. I had this in the Bundesliga roundup, but since we've led to it now, Ryan's not even done with the introductions and I'm already in. Does this goal satisfy both contingents of the Puskás Award? Because it's a beautiful pre-goal sequence, but then the goal itself is also technical and beautiful.
Right in the middle of the Venn diagram. And the build-up to the strike itself is short enough that my attention span can handle it, and it's almost blends together into the strike itself. But the strike from that absurdly narrow angle and the way he hits it, how high he hits it, and how hard he hits it, it checks every box, Taylor. Great question. Totally with you.
Yeah. So maybe 2 weeks in a row we've had two solid Puskás contenders was it Zielinski for Inter last week with that delightful hit on the volley from the cross as well. So maybe they'll just keep coming week in, week out. Puskás everywhere. Joe Lowry there. How are you, Joe?
Oh, sorry, I stepped in some Puskás there. I'm good. I'm doing well. I am genuinely worried for Taylor's vocal cords, I think is what I realized. I didn't know Taylor wasn't feeling well until he came up today. And Taylor, I'm worried about you. I hope you got some tea, some honey nearby. Just guzzle some honey,
Yeah.
Coffee? Yeah. Coffee and motor oil. That's the plan.
Oh. I find it's always best if your throat is sore just to talk on a podcast for an hour.
Yes.
The doctor ordered.
Yep.
Hello, Graham
100%.
Ruthven. How are you?
I'm very well, Ryan Bailey, but everyone else in my house is sick. Lucy is off work today. She has lost her voice. It's coming for me as well. I'm just counting down my days. Yeah,
I'm sorry to hear it. Taylor, have you been in Glasgow lately? Is this what's happened?
I did. I flew all the way there, got an Uber, got to Graham's house, rang the bell, Graham opened the door, coughed in his face, Uber back to the airport, home I went.
Which I thought was just maybe like a Virginia custom, to be honest. I just accepted it, the full-on sneeze in the face. But
when certain settlers arrived here, yes, that was a custom to cough in the face of other people. But
the old Virginia hello.
We don't really remember that so fondly these days.
Wow, I shouldn't have laughed at that. That was slightly dark, but also... Let's continue with the podcast, shall we? Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show is the best way to support us through sickness and in health. You'll get bonus episodes, including Weekend Review Extra. All of the weekend we couldn't fit in the Weekend Review goes in Weekend Review Extra, so join us on the feed for that one. Bonus video content and access to our Discord server where all the cool kids are hanging out. Full disclosure, guys, I shot a video from Charlotte FC's match on Friday night with NYSC FC. I was just too sad to publish it.
I have filmed a video at each Stirling Albion game for the last month, and Saturday or Sunday was the first time that I've published them, published one. Nobody wants to watch a depressed Graham, and maybe nobody wants to watch a
That's
depressed...
exactly what we want to watch.
I was saying, midway through saying no one
to one 6 days a week.
That's right, yeah. Save that for the airwaves. Yeah, I was midway through saying no one wants to see a depressed Ryan, but actually maybe I do. I'm sorry, Ryan. I watched that game at the Bank on Friday night and felt for you.
Indeed. It was one where the outro was just... and that was about it. So, yeah. Non-depressing video on the bonus feed, patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. Plenty of it. Do join us there. Thank you very much indeed. Hey, why don't we go to the Premier League now, specifically... to Eastlands. Manchester City 3, Liverpool 0. City, Graham, in pretty ominous form here on Pep Guardiola's 1,000th game As a manager, we had, Haaland getting another goal, his 14th Premier League goal of the season after missing a penalty. Nico Gonzalez with a long ranger, generously deflected in. And then Jeremy Doku, star of the show. Jeremy Doku with a lovely goal as well. So we probably have a lot to say about Liverpool, Graham, but should we start with how impressive City were in this one?
Just quickly on Pep's 1000th game, I very much enjoyed Sky Sports playing like a montage video before kickoff in this match, and it was of all the other English football managers who have coached 1,000 games, and it was such icons such as Neil Warnock, Big Sam, Nigel Clough, and I'm not entirely sure Pep knew who everyone was in that video, although he does know who Neil Warnock is. I don't know if you guys know about this, but the two of them are actually really quite close pals, which I enjoy very much. They're English football's odd couple, so that was a peculiar start to the game from Manchester City. What do
they do? Are they playing chess together? Are they going to the park? What's happening?
I have no idea, but it should be a documentary. Neil Warnock and Pep Guardiola, their Sunday afternoons together. Yeah, I would.
It's like Paula Abdul and that cartoon cat. Opposites attract. That's what I say.
Exactly. Yeah, an odd couple indeed. But once the game started, I thought this was the best City have played in about 2 seasons. I thought it was a complete performance. They had control for the majority of the match. I thought in possession, they were getting in between the lines really nicely. They were feeding the ball out to the wide areas where City were able to isolate Liverpool defenders, particularly on the left side where poor Conor Bradley had a really rough time getting caught in between Nico O'Reilly and in particular Jeremy Doku, who I thought was outstanding in this match. And then on the other side you had Ryan Cherky, who is really starting to come into his own for Manchester City in the last few games. He had the freedom to find space. He's been getting up to speed these last few weeks, and he's getting better and better with every game. And then out of possession, I just thought City were sharper. They really limited the Liverpool attack, and some of that was on Liverpool as well. I thought they were pretty poor generally. And I just thought City, they covered all bases in a way that I haven't seen since sort of like the treble season, where I think it was difficult to pick where their weakness was, even without Rodri in this midfield. I thought Nico Gonzalez did a decent job. I think having Doku and Cherky and Foden all kind of coming in centrally makes it just easier for City to control games in and out of possession. So this very much looked like the blueprint for Manchester City moving forward from this game. I'm not going as far as saying, a lot of people are saying, I've seen articles and other podcasts saying, City are back. It just seems like this season, I think the top end of the Premier League is so competitive, or the Premier League in general is so competitive, that you have these swings with even the best teams suffering poor runs of form and then good runs of form. So I still don't have total faith in Manchester City's consistency, but they were quite clearly the better team in this game. And I think the framing of this match going into it was, can either of these teams emerge as a challenger to Arsenal? Yeah. And quite clearly City seem to be further ahead in that regard.
I'm not quite as hot on Man City in this game as Graham is, although I still mostly agree with everything you just said. This is a City performance where if you're a Manchester City fan, you should feel encouraged. That is very clear. They were the better team. They were better than Liverpool from minute 1 to the end of this game. They controlled the match, Graham. I think you said something about that, and that was very evident in this game. Conor Bradley, to march off of that point for just a second, I was so complimentary of Conor Bradley against Real Madrid. He looked like he'd seen war in this game against Jeremy Doku. He looked shattered. Not like before the halftime whistle had blown, he looked haunted. And for good reason, because Doku was absolutely sensational in this game. He was the best Manchester City player. He was the best player on the field by a mile. And I thought his role was fascinating for Pep Guardiola. We're in build-up when Liverpool were pressing. You saw this in the first half. You saw it at times in the second half as well. Doku was nominally the left winger, but he would drift all across the entire width of the field, and at times just playing underneath Haaland, at times playing centrally like a number 10, at times shifting all the way to the right side and then back all the way over to the left. It was so fluid and very un-Pep Guardiola-like, this entire setup, where if we think about Pep Guardiola, we think about rigid structures and there's players in clear positions. And yes, they can interchange and there is fluidity in that. But they are, if one player is going to interchange, another player is going to go and occupy that same space. So the structure is maintained. We're seeing that change, I think, in a direct response to how teams are defending now in the year 2025. There's a lot more physicality now than there was 10 years ago or 3 years ago. There's a lot more direct and complex pressing setups as well. And we're seeing Manchester City and Pep Guardiola now multiple times this season tweak what he's doing in response to what opponents are doing. And in this game, we saw those 4 really deeper midfielders, Graham, including Cherky and Foden, who's been dropping deeper this year than he has in quite some time, maybe ever, for Manchester City. And then you have Doku roaming and playing in a role that it's not what I think of as being Jeremy Doku's role by any means. And it was really quite fluid, and I think it gave Liverpool a lot of problems. The area that I'm not as sold on from this game is even though Man City scored 3 goals, they didn't create a whole lot of chances in this game. I know that's like a weird nitpicky thing to say. They get the penalty, and that boosts their XG by a ton. So if you're looking at just the raw XG, that's going to be deceptive. They create almost an identical amount of non-penalty open play expected goals as Liverpool. Like, neither team really created much of anything. The luxury for City was that they didn't really need to in the second half. But I still don't think this team has reached their final form, nor do I think this is like a banner Man City performance. But there were lots of good things, and I think we are seeing some tactical... Pep is settling on some tactical decisions here, and I think he's going to continue to use some of these things moving forward.
Counterpoint to you both. No, they're very good.
Yeah, take that, Graham. You said they sucked. Ha ha.
I mean, I think I said since the beginning of the season, if this team is within touching distance of whoever's in first at Boxing Day, I think they win the title. Performances like this make me feel more confident. Not even the attacking side, because I think Joe is correct. I don't think that they created a ton and had a ton of clear-cut opportunities. But I think that they just defensively caused a lot of problems for Liverpool, including with their kind of just base defensive shape. I think it meant that the fullbacks for Liverpool couldn't be overly aggressive in their positioning, couldn't get fully committed forward because you were always at risk of a 3v2 counterattack going the other way. But it also felt to me like Liverpool had no real answers for how to kind of break through the middle, where City had a ton of numbers. They weren't really trying that much stuff out wide, it felt like, and even when they did, wasn't a ton of joy. It just felt like City kind of had a very like no-nonsense, straightforward win here. Didn't really have to even get out of like maybe third gear, maybe even second gear. Who knows? It just felt like a very comfortable win for City. And when a team can make a team as talented as Liverpool look that kind of pedestrian, I think it says a lot to me.
Yeah, that's kind of where I landed, Taylor. I accept Joe's point. Like, thinking back, City didn't create a whole lot of opportunities, and that has to be the next step for them. I think broadly, I know Doku was excellent in this game, but what was the statistic before this game? That no other player besides Haaland had scored a single Premier League goal, which obviously for a title challenging team, which City want to be, that's unsustainable. So yeah, that's where the next progression needs to happen. But I use the word control again. I just felt like they were in complete control of this game. I think they're finding solutions all over the field. I think Nico O'Reilly is one of those solutions where I have highlighted for the last couple of seasons, or certainly since last season when City had that drop-off, how badly they missed prime Kyle Walker and his kind of like mobility and recovery speed on the wing. That's him. I think Nico O'Reilly is doing a pretty good job of offering that, and also more, because by trade he's an attacking midfielder, and so he gets into areas of the pitch that Kyle Walker would never dream of going into, and so that's just another tactical wrinkle for Manchester City. But the standout player in this game was Jeremy Doku. This is the best match I have ever seen him have. I think he's taken a big step forward this season. Do you remember we spoke about Jeremy Doku after a Champions League game, and one of the things I said about Doku, and this has been in my mind for basically all season, I thought one of the weaknesses of Jeremy Doku was he would go in, if you think of him taking on a defender, he would go in he would go in quickly and come out slowly. And I think that makes him easier to defend against. Now he is going in slowly and coming out quickly. And I think that has made a massive difference for him. He's added final product to his game. You better. And yeah, he was excellent here.
Liverpool with one shot on target all game. That wasn't until the 75th minute as well. Joe, I mentioned in the intro my question of how they go from beating Real Madrid with I think it was the same team, wasn't it? The same starters, to this. Explain it to me like I'm Kyle Walker. How do you do that over a case of a few days?
I mean, Graham got to a little bit of that. Graham saying Real Madrid aren't very good. That version of Real Madrid, I think, was especially bland, right? And we talked about this in the Champions League review show. Liverpool only had to defend one side, and Connor Bradley and the right side did perfectly fine. Camavinga on the other side offered Real Madrid nothing in that game. At the same time, I think Manchester City made life very difficult for Liverpool here. And Liverpool are still trying to find themselves. They're still trying to find what their ideal attacking trident looks like. They're still trying to figure out exactly what the midfield balance looks like. And the fullbacks that are starting games for Arne Slot, I don't think are the fullbacks that he thought would be starting games for him at this stage of the season when Liverpool go through and make all of their transfer moves and get Kirkej and get Frimpong. That's not what we're seeing at this stage. So Liverpool, I think you factor all of those things in with the fact that they weren't especially sharp on the ball in this game. I didn't think. I thought they struggled to play through even a good and aggressive and cohesive Man City press, but not one that that it would be impossible for them to play through. I thought Ryan Gravenberch was sloppy at times in this game, and really Liverpool struggled to build even while they had a lot of possession. Now, they did have some chances, Liverpool, as did Man City, even though neither team created a whole lot. But I think when you factor in the fact that they didn't get the penalty and they had some difficult moments in terms of actually getting those chances on frame, Ryan, as you mentioned, this was just not a banner Liverpool performance. I sort of think that they didn't set themselves up to succeed, but then you toss in as the cherry on top Manchester City having a fortunate deflection and getting the some other breaks that go their way in this game. I'd still maintain the scoreline was a bit more lopsided than the actual play was, even if Liverpool were the inferior team.
Well, there you go. Manchester City in second place, 4 points behind leaders Arsenal. Liverpool down in 8th with their 5th defeat of the season. They've already surpassed last season's defeat tally of 4 under Arne Slot. So there we go. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, more Premier League, including but not limited to a couple of 2-2s at Tottenham and Arsenal. Well, at Sunderland. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to the weekend review. Let's go to Sunderland, shall we? Or the land of Sunder, as it is henceforth now known for rhyming purposes. Sunderland 2, Arsenal 2. The clean sheet streak is over. Sunderland led this one until the 54th minute. Brian Brobby, Mr. Brobby, never not funny, scored a late equaliser to get Sunderland a point in this one after Dan Ballard opened the scoring against his former team. He was an Arsenal player many a moon ago. So, Joe, Sunderland, impressive. They've gained 9 points from losing positions this season. Says NBC to us. No Premier League side has done more than that. Excuse me. And they've scored how many goals? No team has scored more goals from the 90th minute onwards than Sunderland's 5 as well. So obviously, what we're learning here, Joe, is that Sunderland are battling to the end of games, and it is very impressive that they are not giving up at any point.
They are nightmarish to play against. And Graham, your point from the first segment about how difficult it is, even for the best teams, to string together consistent runs of wins is made by Sunderland's performance in this game. Where, were they the better team between the boxes overall? No, probably not. Were they the better team really overall? Did they deserve a result? Maybe not. But they made life absolutely miserable for Arsenal. I don't even think Arsenal played poorly in this game, even though the result makes you think, yeah, they probably did, until you remember that Sunderland are as high up the table as they are, I suppose. But even still, Sunderland are like my worst nightmare of a team. If I'm thinking about my team that I support, going and playing a team, I don't want them to play like Sunderland. It was a deep 5-4-1 block that at times even dropped another player into the back line to make it a 6. And all it is direct play. In this game against Arsenal, all it is direct play. It is absolutely pushing everybody up into the box on any and every possible set-piece opportunity, having Robin Roofs step up and put his absolute foot through the ball, ping it into the 18, and hope that something drastic happens. It's long throws. It's all of the direct, modern stuff that teams that don't have the same financial might as teams like Arsenal are pulling out in the year 2025. And it worked for Sunderland in this game. Mikel Arteta talked about after the match how both goals that they score are very similar, right? You have the Dan Ballard goal that opens the scoring in the 36th minute, and it is that long free kick that I talked about. And then in the second goal, the Brobby goal, great name, it's a clip ball into the box yet again, and it's Ballard who flicks it on to Brobby, and it's 2-2, and Sunderland go crazy. It is just awful to play against a team like Sunderland, so credit to them. We all thought this was going to be the Granit Xhaka game as his return to Arsenal. It really wasn't. Like, this was not a game built for Granit Xhaka. This was a game built for the big lads, and the big lads delivered.
It wasn't built for Granit Xhaka, you're correct, Joe, but I did love that as Sunderland were chasing this one in like the 89th minute, Xhaka gets the ball maybe 30 yards from goal, and the whole stadium just starts yelling, shoot. Like, there was still a positive vibe for Granit Xhaka. He chooses not to shoot, and that ends up being smart, because I think he recycles possession, and then the ball comes in for the flick on for Ballard. So, a really nice sequence there for Xhaka, and a really good game for Ballard, who has the goal, he has the assist, and he has the last-minute block to deny Arsenal the late winner. He has very good defensive statistics in this one. He's very good at kind of marshalling that back 5/6. I thought he was immense and very enjoyable in this game.
Yeah, the Ballad of Ballard going very well this weekend. Graham, what do we make of this one? I suppose what do we make of it from an Arsenal perspective as well? Obviously, the clean sheet streak is no more, but we did kind of pitch this as a trap game a little bit, right, last week? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, we did on the weekend or on Friday. We I can't remember exactly what I said, but basically I think the gist was it wouldn't be overly surprising if Arsenal dropped points here, and that's what happened. In the first half in particular, Sunderland seemed to be building that kind of maybe they won't love this comparison, their fans, but Newcastle in their home games at St James's Park, it gets to a point where it just feels like for opposition teams it's overwhelming, everything that they're facing, the crowd, the atmosphere, but on the pitch as well, just like the physicality of everything that they're facing, the bodies, the big lads that are being sent forward for set pieces, and as Joe kind of outlined. And that's where I felt Arsenal were in the first half. Sunderland, they were just more energetic, they were being really physical in their approach, the home crowd was right on top of the game. And at the start of the second half, I don't really know if I spotted any sort of like tactical changes from Arsenal. It just felt like at half-time Arteta told them they had to embrace the challenge, and they just kind of like upped their intensity and embrace what was being thrown at them. I thought Saka in particular took a grip of the game. He was much more like single-minded at driving at Sunderland defenders with the ball, basically just using his technical advantage. Obviously that's what Arsenal needed to do in the second half because they have better players, so make that count for something. But even after they lifted it in the second half, never felt like they were fully in control. It felt like Sunderland were going to have moments, and obviously that's what happens at the end of the game with Mr. Brobby.
Indeed, never not funny. Once again. How long, Graham, do we think that Sunderland can keep this up? It's obviously they're in fourth place at the moment.
You guys keep talking about them like they're not owned by a billionaire. Like they have so much money, they will be fine.
And they've spent money. Like they spent money in the summer. I don't have the team in front of me, but they do. I mean, Granit Xhaka is one. They've bought experience. Like Mukiele is like a proven player at a high level. So I remember their first game of the season, they beat West Ham, I think, at home in the first game of the season. And my pre-season prediction for Sunderland was they were kind of going to be this season's Ipswich, where they were competitive but maybe not have enough quality and finish in the bottom three. I very quickly changed my prediction after that first game because I just saw a team that pragmatically is equipped to give even the best teams problems. Like they're going to get points out of games against Arsenal and City, and they're going to get points at the teams in the top half of the table. Maybe not many wins, but they will chip away there. And then I think you look through their squad and they've got a decent amount of depth, and in the January window I think they'll strengthen again. So right now it very much seems like they're going to be safe, and maybe even more than that are looking at potentially a top half finish.
Yeah, I think the other one to spotlight is Régis Lebris, the manager. I highlighted him when I did the Sunderland preview as being like a big fan of possession football, of the triangles, of trying to like take advantage of statistically valuable situations, or and like he just feels like a very smart, like wants to play pretty football manager, but also is very pragmatic and will adjust the style and approach accordingly. As we see in this game, the team is very much capable of responding to that adjustment. So I think they have a smart manager who is also pragmatic, but also has visions of beautiful attacking football. They have the kind of checkbook behind them to potentially make that happen down the road, but for now it feels like they will be content to punch above their weight, finish mid-table, and then move on from there, though they are in the Champions League places right now. So maybe instead of mid-table, it's Europe next year.
Yeah, Lebris likes the triangle between Robin Roof's right boot, Dan Ballard's head, and the back of the net. That's the triangle that he likes. It's truly impressive to watch this team. And Ryan, I think your framing, even though it was a little bit shot down by Taylor, I think your framing is right. I mean, Sunderland are in fourth. They're not going to stay in fourth. And Graham, you got to this too. And Taylor, I know you're not suggesting that either. But it is crazy how narrow things are right now. They're in fourth on 19 points. 12th place has 16 points. There's 3 points separating there. Everything is so tight even at this. I know we're still early in the season, but it feels like things should be at least a little bit more spaced out than they are right now. My prediction is that Sunderland will be in the bottom half by Christmas, but I do think that this team is very dangerous and is not a team that anybody, as we saw in this game, can afford to look past.
Is Régis Lebris the most fun Premier League manager name to say?
It's good.
It's good, isn't it?
I think we've lost sight of how fun Pep Guardiola is to say.
That's true.
You know?
I mean, maybe soon we'll be saying Rob Edwards. Rob. That was fun. Big Rob. There we go. Congratulations to Sunderland. Only 2 defeats in 11 games this season. They've taken points off of, obviously, Arsenal. Beaten Chelsea as well. Very good stuff indeed. Long may it continue, billionaires or otherwise. Why don't we go to North London, where Tottenham had a 2-2 draw against Manchester United. We had Brian Mbeumo getting the opening goal from a header in the first half. Matthias Tell with an equaliser. Lovely turn and shot for that one. And then we had all the post-90-minute madness in this game. Another 2 goals coming, Taylor. This one, with two late goals, including Richarlison's shot, was pretty nice as well among those. Despite the scoreline, despite the late goals, it wasn't a great game. Is that fair to say?
Very fair. And I think part of that is United taking that relatively early lead, and then I think content to kind of sit and frustrate from that point on. And I think fully just did not expect Tottenham to be able to get something back in this one, and it is a good turn from Tell, who'd been on the pitch for, 1 minute when he does that. But at the same time, it is a very favorable deflection, much as... who did I hear? Theo Walcott, I think, was on Match of the Day saying, was it Odsonne who has the Audebert? Not Odsonne Edouard. Audebert has the shot that then goes off for Charlison's head. I think Theo Walcott was saying, he definitely meant to place it there. He definitely did not mean to place it there. He was shooting at goal, and it hit off for Charlison. So I would argue favorable moments for Tottenham that, you have to earn and fight for and make happen. But I think for Manchester United to then pull back that late equalizer, even if it was kind of a disappointing vibe, when they are down a player because Šeško comes off with injury, it does still feel like a significant moment, and it absolutely deadened that crowd. It was so strange how silent it was after De Ligt scored, and I shouldn't be surprised because it's at Tottenham, but you'd still expect the away fans to have that volume that brings it back up, and it just felt like the whole stadium couldn't believe that it just happened. And I'm not sure Manchester United or Tottenham could either. So not a classic by any stretch, but still pretty entertaining in moments.
Yeah, a scoreline that suggested this was more entertaining and higher quality than it actually was. I thought it was a pretty low-quality game for the most part. I think a point was fair because neither team was very good. In particular, for the majority of the match, I thought Spurs were poorer of the two teams. They really struggled to create anything, which has been an issue for them recently. It was the same old problem of being unable to progress the ball through the centre of the pitch. And right up until the 79th minute, when Frank makes a couple of changes, Spurs had basically created nothing in the game, and those changes brought a lot of boos from the Tottenham fans who didn't want to see Xavi Simons come off, and I can understand why not, because on paper he is the only sort of natural creator that Spurs have at the moment. But Audebert, to do a further beat on him, Taylor, I thought he made a big difference when he came on. He balanced out the Spurs attack. He gave them more threat on the left side. In the first half, it was way too heavily weighted to the right side. I thought Ahmad, particularly when Mazraoui went off, he struggled in the 1v1s against Audebert, and just gave Spurs a completely different dimension. So he changed the game for Manchester United. I'm not entirely sure what to make of their performance. Similar to the Forest game, I thought the response to going behind was encouraging, especially after going down to 10 men with the injury to Šeško. But they generally still don't do enough to control these games in and out of possession. And in the last two games that I've watched of Manchester United, they've sort of completely dropped out of games for about 15 minutes. And that has cost them. So there's definitely progress for Manchester United, but they're just a long way from being anywhere near a sort of complete team.
I really feel like Graham's being unfair. It's so new into Amram's tenure, and we got to give him more time to get his system established and more time for the players to come to grips with it. At least 3 years before we're fully on board.
I mean, Arne Slot has now lost more games in 2025 than Amram, so which is frankly unbelievable. I don't know how that's true, but it is. So yeah,
I am sure that Šeško has picked up a fairly bad injury, or I am confident that it was a bad injury. The reports afterwards were he has something in his knee. We have to wait and see. Never a great thing.
Can I write that?
He has something in his knee, or never a great thing. Either one could be right. But I would say that it did look for a moment that he was just you know what? I know I'm not good.
I've had enough.
Just sub me off. I know what this is. Because he comes on as a second-half substitute. Šeško, he comes on in the 58th minute. He has an okay opportunity that he does not well with. Then he has a great opportunity that he does poorly with. And in that sequence, somehow ends up hurting his knee. I watched it a bunch. I think maybe it's when he twists it a little bit, but there's no obvious hyperextension. There's no obvious buckling or anything like that. So maybe it's just a minor thing, but it does feel like, given the way he went down and stayed down, the forlorn expression, I would assume that he's out for a little while. I don't know how much of an impact that will have on this club because he's not starting in this game. I think Cunha looked sharp and looked technical, and that's what he's looked like. He doesn't look like a striker, which is the downside there. But Šeško just continues to look completely bereft of confidence, bereft of form, and now bereft of fitness as well.
Yeah. It's amazing how quickly he has looked almost identical to Rasmus Højlund in games where there are moments like the chance, Taylor, that you talk about when he gets injured. a top-level forward is cutting across Van de Ven, so that if he gets back,
so
which Van de Ven might, he's physical and fast, that's what he does, but if he gets back, he's fouling him, and it's a penalty. The fact he takes the touch away, which then leads to his injury, it's a concerning indicator of maybe like a lack of intelligence from him as a centre-forward. So, yeah, I agree. I think it's just as well for Manchester United that Cunha and Mbeumo look absolute quality so far, because otherwise I think Sesko has struggled to this point.
And intelligence is a way of putting it. Awareness would be the other one, because all I can figure with that touch, Graham, is that Sesko sees Jed Spence sort of in his peripheral, because Spence is the player who is like most likely to make a play if you don't know that Mickey Van de Ven is chasing you down. And it seems like Sesko just absolutely doesn't think that anybody's going to be trying to chase him down and make a play. And so instead of taking it across the defender, he takes it away from the one he kind of evaluates as being the threat and opens it up for the better, closer defender to slide in and make that play. And there's just a lack of precision and a lack of awareness there that it really does kind of make me wonder if it is a Bundesliga Leipzig stepping up to Premier League, and the intensity and physicality and the pressing and the talent and money and everything else just makes it so it's just a whole different animal. And you're totally right that it can make a very good striker look not very good very quickly. I was going to throw Højlund on the bus again, but that feels harsh.
Oh dear, panic at the Sesko. We shall find out what happens there. Tottenham 2, Man United 2, both teams on 18 points as we go into the international break. We're going to take a quick break ourselves. When we come back, much more continental action. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to the Weekend Review. A reminder, we are on the YouTube, so you can like and subscribe, smash some buttons to see us on there. I'm wearing a very natty Edgewater Castle scarf today, who are a team who are joining USL League 2 and USLW League this week. Congratulations to Edgewater Castle FC. And also, if you want to get bonus content from the weekend, the other Premier League games, join us on Weekend Review Extra, patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. But for now, we go to the Liga. Graham, Celta Vigo 2, Barcelona 4. Robert Lewandowski with a lovely hat-trick, and Lamine Yamal, of course, getting in on the scoring as well. Barcelona catching up with Real Madrid this week, just 3 points behind now.
Yeah, and this was a hugely entertaining game, as is canon for Barcelona, every single match that they play for the last 2 seasons. I was going to say at the moment, but it's more than that. The first half was absolutely wild in particular, and Celta more than played their part in that. It was all the usual things from Barcelona. Really high line opponents this season, and even going back to like the second half of last season, they're just making much better use of deep runs against them compared to last season. I read over the weekend that Barcelona are catching teams offside 30% less this season than last season. And in this game, Celta repeatedly got in behind. The first Celta goal to make it 1-1 was actually quite comical, because Carrera basically has the entire half to run into, and you can see him thinking, is there a defender coming to tackle me at any point? Because surely Barcelona aren't this open at the back. They were, and he scored to make it 1-1. And then the second goal to make it 2-2, it's a belter of a finish by Borja Iglesias. Still way too easy for Celta to create the opening in space down the right side and then play the ball to the edge of the box. But in the second half, it just felt like Celta couldn't keep it up, because the first half was a complete basketball game, one end to the other, over and over again. And obviously that's how Barcelona play pretty much every single match, so they know how to maintain that over 90 minutes. Celta, they're a good transition team, Celta. They just ran out of steam. And then Barcelona were really comfortable after the opening 45 minutes. So ultimately became a good win for them. Certainly a good win for Robert Lewandowski, who is officially back after this game. I have been generally pretty high on Ferran Torres and what he's offered this season, but this match was a reminder of just how much pure penalty box presence Lewandowski gives you, and like finishing ability to convert those chances. So obviously that's a boost for Barcelona that he seems to be fit again, and a boost for Barcelona that Marcus Rashford continues to produce for them. He's got more assists than anyone else in La Liga this season. Sorry, Joe, for citing that statistic. But
Forgiven.
His assists in this game were genuine assists. And morally, it was actually 3 assists, because it's Rashford who creates the chance that Lamine Yamal scores to make it 3-2 and give Barcelona the lead. So, yeah, he's really contributing now for Barcelona, Marcus Rashford. He's motoring along nicely, and he's a much better crosser of the ball than I realised he was. His ball for the Lewandowski goal to make it 2-1 was excellent. And that crossing has just given Barcelona a different dimension on that left side. So he's doing very well, and Barcelona will be pleased that they're closer to Real Madrid now.
Yeah, he will be indeed. Frankie de Jong getting a second yellow card late on for this one for tripping Iago Aspas. At his age, you don't want to be taking a fall, frankly. He's 38, Aspas. I feel like he's been playing since I was a small child. So congratulations to Aspas for his continued career. Wonderful stuff. Real Madrid held to a goalless draw at Rayo Vallecano. Rayo Vallecano becoming the first team to keep a clean sheet in the league against Real Madrid this season as well, Graham.
And I have no idea if Real Madrid are any good this season. I don't have a read on them at all right now. Were it not for the Clásico, I'd probably have some concerns about how they've been playing, but they were very good in that game. And I don't think this match in particular went any differently to any of the games I've watched Real Madrid play this season. It was just that Mbappe didn't pop in a couple. I've said that a few times, where Real Madrid have been really quite lethargic, and then Mbappe comes up with a goal to win it. That the second part of that just didn't happen in this game, and they're a weird team. They have period in matches where they look good, but the fitness levels don't look to be there yet. I think the balance of the midfield is off. So in this game, Arda Güler he's back, sort of playing that deeper role that he was playing in the Club World Cup, and basically because Jude Bellingham is back, and Alonso has to find a place for him in the team. But that then makes Güler a bit of a target for the opposition press. I don't think defensively he's very good. And I think having him deeper makes Real Madrid more of a transition team as well, rather than being higher up the pitch, which is what Alonso was brought in to do, right? So it just feels a little bit off at the moment, and a result like this has been coming.
Over to Italy, where on Saturday all 4 games in the league were draws, 3 of them 0-0. And we had Juventus Torino among those, the Turin derby as well. But we did have Parma-Milan on Saturday. 2-2 that one finished. And Milan did give up a 2-0 lead in that one. But we did see the return to the field of Mr. Christian Pulisic in the 70th minute as well. So that's good to see Pulisic back in action. And we did, Joe, have a bit more action on Sunday, where Inter went to the top of the league with a 2-0 home win against Lazio. Lautaro and Giovanni with the goals there.
Yeah, Inter's win combined with Napoli's 2-0 loss to Bologna sent Inter top. Great news for my Inter stock that I'm still not selling. I don't care how old that midfield is. Doesn't matter. One note on that midfield, speaking of, it's not all that old these days, or at least it wasn't in this game, because Petar Sucic got the start in midfield, in that midfield trio. Christian Kivu has not drastically changed this team's tactical approach in this game. It was a very Inzaghi 3-5-2 that we would recognize, I think, probably even with most of both eyes closed. Inter started hot in this game. They played well from the jump. They were putting pressure on Lazio early on, getting the win-backs high from the start, breaking into the box early on. Barella had a nice warning shot in the second minute that did set the stage. And the high press for Inter was very, very dangerous as well. They won the ball twice in the first 2 minutes, including the high-pressing win that led to Lautaro Martinez's opener in this game. Part of that high press was made so effective, I think, by Petar Sucic, who I already mentioned. Young Croatian midfielder brought into this team. He is able to bring more dynamism in that midfield group than I think any of his older teammates can. Just 22 years old, he's starting in the midfield next to Çalhanoğlu at 31, and Barella, who still isn't at the 30 mark, but at age 28. And with Barella's style of play, he is maybe not the purest ground cover, although I do think he's quite adequate in that phase of play. Sucic brings more for Inter off the ball, and I think we saw a lot of that. He was also quality on the ball. I think he had some really nice progressive passes down that left side, where he was playing mostly in that left half space, at times even more centrally, at times pushing higher. But he played a really good game in this one, Petar Sucic. It was odd for Lazio to see a Maurizio Sarri team not be able to play. Lazio really didn't have any joy breaking through Inter's press, which I mentioned was effective. Lazio had 0 shots from inside the box in the first half. They barely created anything in the first half. They had a slightly better second half, but not even really all that much better. They were toothless in this game, Lazio, and it's not been a good year for them. Yes, they've had some decent form recently, but they have not been stringing together wins by any stretch of the imagination. Maurizio Sarri said ahead of this game, quote, "We need 25 crazy people who are ready to die to achieve the result." It seems that he did not have those at the end of the day. This was not a good Lazio performance. Inter looked very good. They're on top of the league. They've got the best expected goal differential in the league. Inter soaring, Joe soaring. I was right all along. Forget the thing where they didn't win the title last year. That was made up. That was fake.
We need more top-level coaches to say they need 25 crazy people in their squad.
Yep.
frankly.
Well, because you need the first 11, then you need the next 11, and then just 3 floaters, right? Sort of like the 3. Those floaters are the craziest ones, actually. I know people don't talk about it like that, but they're the ones spurring the other 22 on to peak craziness. And I think actually it was the fault of the floaters in this game, which I'm going to blame on Scotland, I think, overall.
That's fair. Yeah,
Yep.
very good. As Joe noted, Napoli enduring a 2-0 defeat at Bologna on Sunday as well. They dropped to 4th. They're on 22 points. And Roma getting a 2-0 home win against Udinese, thanks to goals from Lorenzo Pellegrini and Zeki Celik. So Inter and Roma are top with 24 points. Just 3 points separating the top 5 in typical Serie A fashion. Wonderful stuff. Hey, Taylor, let's go to Germany, shall we? With the game we've mentioned, Union Berlin 2, Bayern Munich 2. The perfect season over. Almost a loss as well. Harry Kane with the 93rd minute equaliser. But I suppose the big moment, not necessarily story, was the Luis Diaz equaliser. Unreal. Not just the 1.8 degree angle, according to Athletic, that he scored it from, but kept the ball in play, beat a man, and then did that. It was good stuff.
Yeah, and did all that in 3 touches. And I love this goal. For people who haven't seen it, go watch it because it is truly delightful. But Stanisic is trying to play him on the return 1-2, on the return wall pass, and overhits it. And you can see Stanisic kind of put his hands to his head like, oh no, what have I done? My friend, what you have done is set up Luis Diaz for the greatest goal of all time. Because he slides in, gets his body around it, kind of contorts himself so that with one touch, he keeps the ball in play. Then as he's standing up, with his second touch, kind of in one fluid motion, touches it past the defender. I thought it was a Meg in the wide angle. It is not, but it's still very pretty. And then, Ryan, to your point, from 8 yards out, but about 1 foot from the end line, bends it around the keeper into the top corner. Keeper's in fine position from everything I could tell. Luis Diaz just feeling himself. Feeling himself less a couple minutes later when he's one-on-one with the goalkeeper and passes it about 5 yards wide. That wasn't quite as good. But Bayern do end up getting that 93rd minute equalizer, courtesy of Harry Kane, as you said. And it feels like that should be a significant moment. It's just that when we were excited for 34 wins, a late equalizer, it's like, we've seen that before. Leverkusen already did that, guys. Find a new way. And they didn't. Other things to talk about from the Bundesliga. Batsumana Torre, I'm just going to always talk about him every week, won the battle of teenage Ivorian sensations. His Hoffenheim secured a 3-1 win over Leipzig, although it was 18-year-old Ivorian Jan Diomande who opened the scoring with a really veteran 3-touch goal. Benjamin Šeško, take note. First touch to receive, second touch to cut across the defender, third touch to pass under the goalkeeper into the far side netting. Very composed. Torre, for his part, plays a role in the equalizer, plays a really dangerous ball to the back post that's headed back across for the tap-in. But the story for this one for me is that Hoffenheim really just carved Leipzig open with some really nice progressive passing. They are very dangerous on the counter as well. It reminds me of Leverkusen the year they won the title, but 80% as good. So not quite at that level, but maybe at the level where they will end up in the Champions League places because they just play with a lot of kind of pattern progression or pattern awareness, and they kind of know exactly when to hold the ball, exactly when to release, exactly where their teammates are going to be. They're a very, very fun Hoffenheim team who are now in 6th place, 2 points behind 4th place Stuttgart, and 3rd placed Dortmund. Speaking of Dortmund, they traveled to Hamburg this weekend, and there was drama. Dortmund took the lead in the 64th minute, but then Hamburg pushed and got themselves an equalizer in the 7th minute of stoppage time, courtesy of Ranford Königsdorfer. We're all familiar, yes?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
of course,
Königsdorfer.
Ranford.
That's Reggie Labrie levels of wonderful name. I like that.
Ranford Königsdorfer.
Or?
Yes, that's
Graham would know from his time at the bar as a child. So.
Yeah.
But he has a story unto himself because he scores 14 goals for them last year in the 2 Bundesliga. Ryan, how am I supposed to say that in German?
Zweite Bundesliga.
It is Zweite?
Yeah.
I feel like I always say that wrong. All right. Well, anyway, Königsdorfer scored 14 goals in the Zweite Bundesliga. Nearly transferred to Nice this summer. Hamburg able to hold on to him. Everyone is very happy until they weren't when he went 9 starts without a goal and missed a decisive penalty in a 1-0 loss at home. So he starts this game on the bench, subs on, lashes onto a late cross, puts it in the side netting, and there was much rejoicing. Unless you're a Dortmund supporter, then you were kind of upset. It was a good weekend for Gladbach and a terrible weekend for Christopher Lund, who decided to repay my praise of him from last week by conceding 2 different penalties in Cologn's 3-1 loss to Gladbach. Frank Honora had the play of the game, though. He wins the ball in a 1v1 challenge about 15, 20 yards inside his own half. carries it forward a good 50 yards, plays an inch-perfect through ball. Rarely do you see the through ball that ends up at a tap-in, but here it was because everybody's out of position. He spots the teammate running through, and it's a tap-in for Haris Tabakovic at the far post after he splits like 3 different defenders and the goalkeeper as well. Gladbach have 2 wins in the last 2. They're up to 12th in the table, looking more comfortable. Leverkusen absolutely demolished Heidenheim, scoring 4 in the first 27 minutes and then added 2 more for a 6-0 win. They play Around the World by ATC, that like do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. And how do I know that? It's because I heard that 6 different times in this game. It's played so often. They played it a lot. St. Pauli got their first goal in over 8 hours of soccer, but it was not enough as they fell to SC Freiburg 2-1. And Frankfurt's Jonathan Burkhardt played his former club Mainz, but it was Ritsu Doan who had the highlight of the game with a beautiful solo run through 2 defenders. He splits the 2, then has another really well taken kind of pass shot into the far side netting to get Frankfurt all 3 points. A lovely weekend in the Bundesliga. It was for some.
Can't score. Thank you very much, Taylor Rockwell. That just about wraps up the weekend review here. But as noted, Weekend Review Extra is waiting for you on the bonus feed. Plenty to talk about there, Premier League and otherwise. And of course, MLS coming to the main feed on Tuesday. Lots to talk about Messi related, Joe, no doubt, for the show on Tuesday. Wonderful.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll also talk about Charlotte, Ryan, unfortunately for you.
Okay, there comes that sigh again. But in the meantime, Taylor Rockwell, thank you very much indeed. Let's get some vocal rest for you, sir.
Sounds good, except when we go record Weekend Review Extra. Then we'll get some vocal rest.
Yeah, I meant like one day, not today. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Joe Lowry, thank you very much, sir.
Thanks, Ryan.
Graham Ruthven, thank you.
Thank you, Ryan Bailey.
And listener, thank you again for joining us on this one. We'll be back on the feed very shortly indeed. But for now, bye.